I love to experiment with embossing powder techniques, and in this video I'm sharing the melting magic of super thick embossing powders and mixes of different types of embossing powders on sticky sheets and strips. Hello and welcome to Karen's Creative Cards on YouTube. I am Karen Hashik and I love creating texture and color mixes with embossing powders. Just look at this adorable Scotty dog. How do you think I achieved that awesome mix of black and white and texture? Try to hold it up as high as I can. This is super bumpy and textured and looks like a real puppy. And I used Dalmatian super thick embossing powder from Sparkle and Sprinkle at Glitters Galore. I have links, of course, in the description box to everything. But this is a mix of black and white, super thick embossing powder. And I put it on a sticky sheet and cut out the dog, and that is the result. Super cute and really nice and textured. I love the mix of the red, black, and white. In the checkers, where's my checkers? Here it is. In the checkers and super thick embossing powder mix, and I created these flowers with that. Again, I die cut them out of sticky sheets. Sookwang, which is ScorTape basically, has sheets like this, so when you have bigger die cuts or whatever you want to use, you can use the sheets. And then they also have rolls. So I use all three depending on what I'm doing with them. And in this case I die cut the flowers and dumped on the Checkers embossing, super thick embossing powder, and got this really textured, bumpy, fun colored mix very, very easily. I'm going to show you how I did that in a minute. As I showed you, they also have rolls, and I took that wider roll of Sookwang ScorTape and attached it to the card front here, and then I dumped on three different colors. I have the super thick pink, the super thick purple, and then the fawn, which kind of looks like sand, but it ends up kind of being that goldish brownish tone there, so almost peachy. So I have that mix of colors there, and then I created the butterfly also with that beautiful textured thick embossing powder. I like to mix and match these super thick ones with some of my favorite aged embossing enamels from Stampendous. So on the side here I use the aged wine that has a mix of purple in there, and then I have also used the aged rose on some of the flowers that I'm going to show you. Oh, I also wanted to point out that another fun thing you can do with these, really any embossing powders, is to take like some pop dots or the square ones here that are black and a little bit lower, and they have adhesive on both sides. So take the strip or whatever it is on top off, and then dump some of the embossing powder on that and melt it, and you have an embellishment that matches your card. So that's a circular one I did, and I have another couple here in gold and purple. And on this card I created these embellishments with the square black ones here and the same embossing powder that I used on the flower. So that's another fun thing you can do with really any embossing powders, but especially these super thick ones. This is the card that I'm going to show you how to make in this video. It is an easel card. As you can see, it stands up. and on the both on the front and the inside there's all sorts of mixes of these thick embossing powders and also some of my other favorite ones. So I made the bucket, and I'm going to show you how I did that with a mix. The flowers all have different mixes of the embossing powders, and those are the embellishment pieces that I just talked about. And then this strip here also has thick embossing powder, and sometimes when you're melting it, little pieces of it come off the sides, and I kind of like that look. It's look kind of distressed, and that's a really cool mix there, and I'm going to show you how I did that. And then on the inside, this one says thinking of you, with a Stampendous stamp, and it has another flower and then another embellishment. So that's the card that I'm going to make with you in this video. I'm starting out with the bucket. That is a die from Tonic Studios, and I have mixed the Dalmatian, which is the black and white, with the fawn, and created a new mix with that, and I put it in this container. Sometimes, as I'll show you, I just mix up a little bit. In this case I lean it a little more, so I have that mix already prepared there. And I've die cut the bucket out of white cardstock with the sticky ScorTape on top. I did want to point out, and I should mention this right away, that if you are going to try these super cool, super thick embossing powders from Sparkle and Sprinkle at Glitters Galore, and you want them for traditional uses of embossing powder, like stamping with Versamark and then melting the embossing powder on that, these are not the embossing powders you probably want. I didn't have any success doing that, and I had a good sticky Versamark pad, but I really am not a big fan of doing that anyway, so everything you see here is going to be on the sticky two-sided sheets, and as you can see, that works very, very well. So I am going to take that mix that I talked about, which is the Dalmatian and a little bit of the fawn, so there's a little bit of brown in there. Make sure it all gets covered. And then I'm going to take my heat gun and melt it. Now, you should be able to see the melting magic, and I'll show it to you when it's done. This goes very, very quickly, and if you overheat it, you move it too much and it kind of just, I don't know, disappears or totally melts. So I'm going to use my heat gun and melt it, and you can watch that it expands and moves. It's just very different than any other embossing powder, so it's really cool. It does get very hot. So the embossing powder has melted and moved and mixed, and it's very textured. Looks like I need a little more on the bottom and the top, though. I'm going to do a little more. wanted to get it a little more textured without melting it so much that it just melts away. And we have that really cool mix of the black and white and a little touch of the brown in there. And very textured, and that's going to be my bucket for my flowers. Then I want to take the strip of the Sookwang or ScorTape on a white piece. And on that one, I am going to mix the aged gold in with the checkers. And because I don't need that much, what I'm going to do is just dump it in here. And then mix some of the aged gold in there. I always say this is like being a mad scientist, and it's just a lot of fun. And I didn't really like science and experiments in school, but I do like this. So, and you know, if we don't like it, we can just try another combination, you know. But in most cases, I do. So now I'm going to dump this along the strip here. And press that down and make sure everything's got some on there. And once again, I'm going to melt that. And it doesn't take too long, and then I can show you that melting magic. So the red and the black and the gold have all mixed together and just created that really unique embossed magical look there. We're starting with a card base that is an A2 size, so it's 5.5 by 8.5, and I fold it in half, and then I fold it in half again, and that's how you create the easel. The card front is a dark brown piece, 4 by 5.25, and I debossed it with Memory Box's debossed leaves for some extra interest and texture there. On the inside, it's I've completed that to save a little time. Thinking of You is a Sue Wilson die. I made a gold embellishment there, and I added another one of the pink flowers in here. So that part is ready to go. I have already done the flowers. This one is with the checkers, and then the pink one I did with the super thick pink, and then around the edge I used the aged rose, and then I also even sponged a little bit to add a little more color. The purple one was with the super thick purple embossing powder from Glitters Galore, and then I added the aged wine purple embossing powder around the edges so that the color stood out a little more. And I've die cut some greens, and these are the pieces we'll be using to put the card together. This is the strip that's going to hold the easel up. So I'm going to use some pop dots to do that. And also just extra pieces. I never throw any of that away, so I can use it all. Let's see if that's going to stand up pretty good. It is. That's going to go down here and hold the easel up with that pretty bucket of flowers on the front. I always make my pieces a little longer than I need rather than a little shorter, so I can trim it off and it will fit perfectly. Stand up like that. And then we're going to take the bucket, and that has that really cool mix of black and white and brown and some thick ScorTape to attach that. I also cut a little handmade hug strip, which is from Simon Says Stamp in their pre-packaged, pre-prepared sentiment strips. I just thought it needed a little something here, so it's going to say a handmade hug, and then on the inside it says thinking of you with the beautiful flowers. So we have the 3 flowers I created, and we'll use glue dots to attach those. So I want one here and one here and then one in the center. And then we have these embellishments that have gold embossing powder on them, and they're going to be in the center of each flower. Can I do it left-handed? I think so. So we have the 3 different colors of flowers with that super thick embossing powder, and then the centers have been done with the gold, aged gold, for a nice touch. And then I just have some greens left to attach, and I'll use some glue dots to do that. What did we ever do without glue dots and 2-sided tapes and all the things that we use now? They each are so handy. Whoops. Okay, that didn't work. Let's try that. Nope. Try it again. If I can just get it off my finger and get it onto the green and not upside down. Okay, we'll start again. Off my finger. There. Okay, and now we're just going to stick some greens behind the flowers. I may have to cut this one off, but put it in the center and see where we're at. Maybe not. So our easel card with the super thick embossing powders from Sparkle and Sprinkle at Glitters Galore is done. I have the pretty black and white and brown, and then the purples, the red and blacks and pinks on there. It stands up to reveal that pretty strip with the red and black and white and gold mix, and then they would open it to see Thinking of You with a few more embellishments with that super thick embossing powder. I hope my card samples encourage you to try some different types of embossing powders on your cards. Thanks for watching, sharing, and subscribing, and thanks too for helping me share the joy of creativity.